Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most ancient libraries in human history, the Vedas. But we're not just going to read them. Nope. We're here to map out their incredible architectural blueprint. So let's start with the big question. How in the world do you organize a library of sacred knowledge that's over 3,000 years old? You might picture, just a chaotic pile of ancient scrolls. But the real answer is surprisingly elegant, and it tells a fascinating story all by itself. See, the trick is to stop thinking of the Vedas as just one single book. That's the key. Instead, I want you to picture this magnificent, sprawling building, constructed layer by layer over centuries. If you can hold that image in your mind, it's gonna unlock everything for us. Okay, so let's get into it. We'll start with the foundation of this amazing structure. At its very core, the entire Vedic library is built on a really clear four-part blueprint. It all boils down to the number 4. At the very highest level, the whole collection is split into 4 main texts, or what we call the 4 Vedas. These are the 4 huge pillars of our structure. First, you've got the Rigveda, the oldest one, full of powerful hymns. Then there's the Samaveda, which is basically the songbook that sets those hymns to music. The Yajurveda is the practical how-to manual for all the rituals. And then there's the Atharvaveda, which is this fascinating collection of spells and charms for just everyday life. Each one has its own totally distinct personality. And here's where the architecture gets really, really cool. Each one of those 4 Vedas is also split into 4 layers. It's like a progression. You start with the core hymns, the Samhitas, then you move to the ritual explanations, the Brahmanas, then these more reflective forest texts, the Aryanakas, and you end up at the philosophical peak with the Upanishads. It actually maps out an entire evolution of human thought. All right, to really see how this works, let's start our tour with the foundation stone of the whole building, the Rigveda. And when I say foundation, I mean ancient. The oldest part of the Rigveda, its Samhita, was put together somewhere around 1500 BCE. Just think about that for a second. That makes it one of the oldest religious texts in the world that's still in continuous use. Incredible. So this foundational layer, the Rigveda Samhita, is essentially a massive collection, 1,028 poems of praise, or suktas. These hymns are talking to deities that represent these awesome forces of nature, like Agni, the god of fire, or Indra, the god of rain and war. This poetic core is the absolute bedrock for everything else that gets built on top. Okay, so next up we have 2 Vedas that are basically the practical application of the Rigveda. They're all about answering the question, great, we have these hymns, now what do we do with them? Think of it like this. If the Rigveda is your book of lyrics, then the Samaveda is the songbook, giving you all the melodies to sing them. At the same time, the Yajurveda is like the director's script. It's the how-to guide, with all the pros instructions for how to perform the sacred fire sacrifices, the yajnas. So one gives you the sound, and the other gives you the action. Now, attached to these Vedas is that second layer we talked about, the Brahmanas. You can think of these as super detailed guidebooks. They don't just tell you what to do in a ritual, they explain why. They dive deep into the cosmic meaning behind every single little action. Now, that 4th and final Veda, the Atharvaveda. Well, this one's a little different. It's a bit of a maverick, standing slightly apart from the other 3 because its focus is way more personal and practical. And this is where things get so relatable, even thousands of years later. The Atharvaveda is packed with chants and incantations for all the stuff that keeps us up at night. Prayers for good health, charms for success, spells to protect your family from harm. It's really a Veda for real life. So while the other Vedas were mainly for these big, formal, priestly rituals, the Atharvaveda brought spirituality right into the home, right down to the kitchen table. It speaks directly to those immediate personal hopes and fears that have been part of the human experience forever. All right, let's pull the camera back now and look at the whole structure one more time. Because when you see all 4 layers working together across the Vedas, you witness this absolutely remarkable evolution in religious thinking. What happens is the focus starts to shift inward. You begin with the Samhitas, these external hymns praising the gods. Then the Brahmanas come along to explain the external rituals. But then you get to the Aryanikas, the forest texts, and the focus moves to the symbolic, internal meaning of those same rituals. And finally, you reach the Upanishads, which are almost entirely about exploring our inner reality. The Upanishads are the absolute philosophical peak of our whole architectural tour. This is the rooftop observatory. This is where the ancient sages turned their gaze from pleasing the gods to understanding the very nature of consciousness itself. That deep, profound relationship between the individual self, the Atman, and the ultimate reality of the entire cosmos, Brahman.
And here it is, the whole shebang, the complete architectural blueprint. Just take a second to look at this. Down the left-hand side, you can see the 4 main Vedas we've been talking about. And then across the top, you see those 4 layers of development. So for example, just follow the row for the Rigveda. It starts with its hymns, the Samhita, moves to its ritual guides, the Brahmana, and its philosophical capstone is the Aitareya Upanishad. Now look at the Yajurveda row. That one gives us some of the most famous Upanishads out there, like the Katha. Each path through this table maps this incredible journey from outward praise to inward philosophy. It's just a beautifully organized system.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the structure of the Vedas is so much more than just a library catalog. It's actually a map of a profound human journey. It's a 3,500-year evolution from praising the world outside us to questioning the very universe within us. And that shift, from ritual to reflection, might just tell us something fundamental about the nature of faith itself. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.